job in higher education institution on the African continent? There is no need to go looking. The Africa Education Jobs Board will deliver available jobs to you via our platform. To start your search, visit our website. On our website, you will find variety of job postings classified by the sectors and professions they belong to. There are sections devoted to variety of career-related materials as well as information on African countries. All information you require based on the job description and requirements are accessible on the site. If you are looking for a job in higher education on the continent, use our dedicated portal www.africa.edujobs.com. For job market updates, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AF Jobs Board.
You are welcome to the Midweek News on AAU TV, your trusted voice of higher education in Africa. I am Jemima Daladam Duche.
And my name is Ajiman Ocherdako.
And this week's headlines on higher education: Center for Dryland Agriculture set target to address agricultural challenges. And again, monkeypox is no longer a global emergency, the WHO declares.
In our Discovery story, Ken residents on a mission to reduce flood damage. In our entertainment news, Nigerian Afrobeat star Davido announced this new Netflix docuseries. Please stay with us for more news in detail. We'll be right back.
The Center for Dryland Agriculture, CDA, Bayero University, Kano State, has set targets to address the challenges bedeviling dryland agriculture in Africa as it affects food production and security.
The Center for Dryland Agriculture, CDA, Bayero University, Kano State, is a World Bank-funded center of excellence with the purpose of responding to the needs of dryland regions through relevant high-level human capacity development and demand-driven research contributing to the food security, improved livelihoods, and sustainable use of natural resources. The CDA Director, Professor Jibrin Mohammed Jibrin, disclosed at the second yearly Open Day celebration of the center about its initiative to showcase its modest innovation and technical breakthrough over the years. Professor Jibrin noted that CDA has excelled significantly in the area of knowledge transfer and research development, adding that its commitment in dryland production attracted resources and funding from World Bank and French Agency for Development AGD, while revealing that CDA has trained over 530 PhD and MSc students, majority of whom were drawn from 15 African countries. He added that there are several formidable networks of partnership with international and regional institutions with common interests. According to him, the center plans to establish a regional innovation, training and entrepreneurship hub where youth will be trained in modern intensive agriculture and bioresource entrepreneurship. In his words, that is aimed at facilitating the emergence of small and medium-scale enterprises that will help in alleviating poverty and improve livelihood of the inhabitants of the sub-region. Vice-Chancellor of the University, Professor Sagir Adamu Abbas, represented by Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Administration and Establishment, Professor Mahmoud Umar Sani, revealed that the international recognition BUK earned through the CDA from the World Bank and French Agency for Development is in the region of $5 million. The Vice-Chancellor added that while the CDA remains a regional center of excellence through consistent innovation and technological development, he is assured of the university's readiness to support the CDA with the necessary atmosphere that will enable it to strive to greater heights.
Togo's Higher Education Minister, Ihu Watiba, has announced that courses and diplomas offered by private universities must conform with those of public institutions from the next academic year.
This fulfills a recommendation from an international evaluation of Togo's private higher education sector, which found that most private universities award qualifications that are not internationally recognized. Many teaching staff are unqualified, and many important facilities and infrastructure are lacking. As demand for higher education has risen during the past 30 years, Togo's public universities have become saturated, whilst the private sector has grown to account for between a fifth and a quarter of higher education institutions. At present, the private universities in Togo are free to devise their own courses and assessments and award their own diplomas, while by contrast, as cited in Togo News, an example of France where out of more than 3,000 private higher education institutions, only 171 were authorized to award the equivalent of BA and MA degrees in business and management studies, and no private institutions were authorized to award doctorates. With financial support from the United Nations Development Programme, the Togo Higher Education and Research Ministry commissioned an evaluation of the private sector by a panel of national and international experts, which found changes and reforms were needed, reported Togo News. According to Togo News, problems identified in Togolese private universities included that most of them, 37 out of 47, awarded diplomas not recognized by CAMES or the Conseil Africain et Malgache pour l'enseignement supérieur. Some of the teaching staff simply do not have the required qualifications, and the analysis of buildings found a lack of IT facilities, access to drinking water, separate laboratories and infirmaries. The evaluation panel made a number of recommendations, including the harmonization of study courses in the public and private sectors, higher qualification for teachers, greater regulation of premises used by accredited private institutions, and a better match between education and employment needs, reported Togo News. Before publication of the evaluation report, Wateba announced that from the next university year, private institutions will be obliged to offer the same studies as public ones and organize examination coordinated under the state control, reported Togo News.
So that is a very compelling news coming from Togo, as its Higher Education Minister, Ihu Watiba, has announced that starting from the next academic year, universities, let me say private universities in the country, must align their courses and diplomas with those offered by the public institutions. And from the article, this decision came in as a response to an international evaluation that revealed the shortcomings of Togo's private higher education sector, and they mentioned, including the lack of international recognition for their qualifications. Their certificates, and then unqualified teaching staff, and also some inadequate facilities. But then I would want you to tell me what exactly is happening in Togo against the Togolese Ministry of Higher Education.
Well, it's a very compelling situation, as you just put it in the first place. 30 years now, calling now in Togo, and we have so many private universities saturating the public ones. It's a good thing. It tells that the Togolese economy is becoming a more capital type, where people are investing into higher education the private way. But there's, as much as we welcome the access to higher education institutions, we also need to ensure that there's quality. And that is where we find that there is a lack in terms of quality, quality capacity compared to the public universities and then private universities. These private universities, unfortunately, haven't been able to meet some of the threshold provided by the Higher Education Commission, basically, with regards to infrastructure, facilities, quality of degrees or diplomas they award, and also the human resource. So that's a problem. And as much as we are trying to open up education in Togo, we have to ensure that these degrees and diplomas are awarded match the quality, value for money from people, students who school there, against what the university also offers them at the end of the day.
Oh, okay. But then are there any repercussions, any implications on private universities that fail to conform to the status of the education, the education ministry in Togo?
Basically, your non-conformance to the system will mean that you are being a bane to quality higher education in Togo. The SDG goal number SDG 4 talks about quality education, and it encompasses the system, the degrees, and then the infrastructure and everything. So if you are not conforming to these standards, you're being a bane, and you're not only affecting the reputation of Togolese universities or degrees, you're also trying to decline, or let's say set out a bleak of the quality of degrees that these students hold. So let's say a Togolese university student wants to travel to the US, the UK, or even Ghana somewhere to work, and then their degrees or do not meet the standard. We say we don't recognize what you're bringing on board because the quality standards in your country's university isn't universal. It is against the system, and I think that systems like CAMES and Co have set in to show that they structure and straighten up the Togolese higher education system so that we have a much more leveraged quality for everybody.
So we should have a much more leveraged community for everybody. Health news is up next.
In our health news, monkeypox is no longer a global public health emergency, the World Health Organization has said. Almost a year after the threat was raised, the virus is still around and further waves and outbreaks could continue, but the highest level of alert is over, the WHO added.
Its official name is Mpox, and it is caused by the monkeypox virus, a member of the same family of viruses as smallpox, although it is much less severe. With initial symptoms including fever, headaches, swellings, back pains, and aching muscles. With more than 67,000 cases and 140 deaths reported from 111 countries during the global outbreak, according to a WHO count, almost 90% fever cases were recorded over the last 3 months compared with the previous 3-month period, meaning the highest level of alert is no longer required, Tedros said. In the UK, only 10 cases have been reported since the beginning of the year. Moreover, the announcement comes just a week after the UN agency also declared the COVID emergency over. Declaring a public health emergency of international concern, PHEIC, signals that countries need to work together to manage a shared threat such as disease outbreak. Since June 2021, the African institutions such as the West African Center of Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens, WACBIB, University of Ghana, and the African Center of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Diseases in Nigeria, AGED, Redeemers University, had been leading a team of scientists from Africa in cutting-edge research to guide the development of new approaches to disease diagnosis, prevention, and control. Since May 2014, there has been only one WHO-declared PHEIC for poliovirus. Even though the first doses of the vaccine will end on 16 June and both doses will cease at the end of July this year. However, if you are eligible and still need to take up the vaccine, you would have to take steps ahead of the summer months to ensure that you have maximum protection, said Dr. Kati Senka, head of sexually transmitted infections at the UK Health Security Agency.
Stick with us for Discovery News after the break. We're right back.
Welcome to GTP Health and Safety Corner. If you feel like stepping out, remember social distancing. You might just save a life. Rock at home, stay safe. Wash your hands with soap and running water. Spaced out but still in touch. Check in on your loved ones and stay safe. GTP, timeless.
I'm inviting universities in Africa to the Conference of Rectors, Vice Chancellors, and Presidents of African Universities that is coming up in Windhoek, Namibia, between July 4th to 7th, 2023. The theme of this current VIP is promoting excellence in African higher education. I am appealing to Vice Chancellors to ensure that they are registered for this conference and also ensure that they come to this conference with their Deputy Vice Chancellors and their registrars as well as deans of their various colleges. Let us come together to promote excellence in African higher education. Thank you.
In our Discovery News, volunteers work together to collect debris and waste that is blocking the waterways and drainage at an informal settlement. Armed with shovels, brushes and rakes, the volunteers work with Weather Mtani, a group set up to help improve life for the people living in rural communities.
Weather Matani is a group of 24 voluntary community leaders that live in Kibera with a mission to translate changes in weather to take actions within communities before any adverse weather happens. Volunteers within the community work together to clear debris and water that is blocking the waterways and drainage at an informal settlement. Armed with shovels, brushes and rigs, the volunteers are working with Weather Matani, a group set up to help improve life for the people living here. A lack of proper working drainage system means the flooding is likely when it rains due to its being clogged with rubbish such as plastics, clothing and sludge. The Kenya Meteorological Department has been training young people from informal settlements to interpret weather forecasts. Anne Antieno, volunteer at Weather Matani, explained that it was a race against the clock to clear as much rubbish as possible ahead of the rain. She received the weather forecast from the Weather Matani, which translated as village weather, predicting rain in the coming weeks. It prompted her to band together with volunteers to clean up around Kibera, one of the largest slums in Africa with an estimated population of 250,000. Every week, the volunteers receive weather forecasts, seasonal outlooks and warnings from KMD, which they translate into local language. The translation is sent to other volunteers through WhatsApp or SMS, which is then sent widely to residents. According to Mary Akoku, Weather Matani has kept her updated on latest weather forecast messages, which we send to other residents. And if there are any cleanups, they volunteer because they have poor drainage systems that are not capable of containing the rains. The project has so far been successful that after the pilot project ended, the KMD continued to send weather forecasts to Weather Matani leaders in the various communities.
We'll be back with news on sports and entertainment. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the sports and entertainment segment. My name is Anyuko Twakwanyami, and in our sports news, Morocco is scheduled to compete at the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris from July to August next year. This comes after Morocco won gold in both the men and women's categories of the inaugural African breakdancing champions in Rabat on Saturday.
The men's final pitted fellow Moroccans, B-boys Billy and Taufik, against each other, with Bilan Malagaga going on to win. After the game, B-boy Billy indicated that his winning the African Breakdance Championship would lead him to represent Africa at the Olympic Games in Paris. He also said that he will work hard to better represent Africa.
In the women's section, Fatima Zara El Mamouni, also known as Big Girl El Mamouni, got the better of South African Midian Lee to win the title. Secretary General of the World Dance Sports Federation, WDSF, Sergei Nefronto, reiterated what a historical moment the win was. He added that it was a huge milestone for the WDSF breaking the first continental championship in Africa. He further said, because the current year is a pre-Olympic year, 2/4 of places will be given to Paris through this qualification. Breakdance is one of the 4 new disciplines to be included in the Olympic Games in 2024, along with climbing, surfing, and skateboarding. Also known as breaking, this style of urban dance developed in New York in the 1970s and is now practiced globally.
Meanwhile, in entertainment, Nigerian Afro star David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, has announced the debut of a new documentary series that focuses on his life. David, the title of the docu-series, will premiere in December. Speaking with the United Arab Emirates-based publication, Davido said there is more to come from him this year.
The 30-year-old musician, Davido, said he is working on a docu-series on his life. This series, which is titled David, will premiere on Netflix this December. Announcing the news, Davido hinted that the docu-series will be about his life. This hint on the project was the first time he ever said anything or gave out any information on the documentary. David will not only be the first series to be released by the musician, but it would be the first such autobiographical series by a major contemporary Nigerian artist. In an interview, Davido also revealed his intent to look beyond the music industry and into film. Davido is not entirely a stranger to the film world. 2 years ago, he played himself, even if briefly, in the Hollywood film Coming to America.
Presenting the Crown Prince of Zamunda, Prince Lavelle, and his bride.
That is all for sports and entertainment news. My name is Mamiuko Tuakwanyame. Up next is business and international news.
In our business news, according to an Oxfam report published on May 11th, for some leading chocolate manufacturers in the United States and Italy had increased since the onset of the pandemic in 2020. While companies see their profits soar, they fail to keep their promises to improve the wages of the farmers who grow cocoa in Africa, specifically Ghana.
The world's 4 largest public chocolate corporations, Hershey, Lindt and Mondelez and Nestle, together made nearly $15 billion in profits from their confectionery divisions alone since the pandemic broke. This amount was up by an average 16% since 2020. The giants paid out on average more than their total net profit, 130% to shareholders between 2020 and 2022. At the same time, an Oxfam survey of more than 400 cocoa farmers in Ghana, the second largest global producer of the commodity, found their net incomes had fallen by an average of 16% since the same period. For women, the average drop was 22%, it added. According to Oxfam's International Interim Executive Director, Amitabh Behar, there's a big money in chocolate, but definitely not for farmers. He mentioned that cocoa farmers work extremely hard under grueling conditions, yet they are sometimes unable to feed their families. The charity claimed that up to 90% of Ghanaian cocoa farmers do not earn a living income, meaning they cannot afford enough food or other basics such as clothing, housing, and medical care. The NGO also noted that while Ghana produces about 15% of the world's beans, it receives only about 1.5% of the sector's estimated $130 billion annual global earnings. Giant Nestle said that while it cannot influence the farm gate prices due to cocoa trade structure in Ghana, the company does everything it can to help cocoa farming families close to living income gap.
That's it for business news. International news is next.
French President Emmanuel Macron on Wednesday, May 10th, welcomed his Zambian counterpart, Hakainde Hichilema. Among the key issues discussed by the two countries was the thorny topic of restructuring of the Zambian debt and its economic ties in France.
In an interview, Zambian President Hichilema pleaded for economic diplomacy at a time when some analysts predicted a return to a bipolar world. According to the Zambian president, Africa has been lagging and the continent must do something dramatic to lift up its economy. Stressing on the relevance of the meeting, he said the meeting was to discuss the issue of debt and opportunities for investment, specifically for trade. He further added that this investment is towards value addition rather than extracting raw materials and exporting raw materials, but to extract these and process them in a country in a joint venture with others. Zambia is a top producer of copper. Since Hichilema's election, Western countries have been courting him. The French Secretary of State in charge of the development of Francophonie and international partnerships, Chrysoula Zakharopoulou, recently cited Zambia as an example as a democratic country that can feed Southern Africa and a country that has become an important partner to France. Hichilema said Paris was the place to ensure that the debt restructuring issue is resolved so as to devote resources, time and attention to development.
Thank you for staying with us on the AAU TV Mid-Week News. We'll take a quick recap of our headlines.
In higher education, Center for Dryland Agriculture set target to address agricultural challenges. And again, monkeypox is no longer a global emergency, WHO declares.
Now, Discovery Story, Kenyan residents on a mission to reduce flood drainage. Now, in 10 minutes news, Davido announces new Netflix docuseries.
So Ajaman, before we wrap up, I would want you to tell us what is happening on the 25th of May ahead of AAU, the African Union Day. Can you give us, what is really going to happen? What should we expect?
So, all too soon, we have another May 25th. And I mean, on Africa's calendar, we know 25th of May to be Africa's birthday, where Africa was born in terms of unity and focus. So we're looking at the African Union Day, a day to commemorate Africa's unity and also reflect on Africa's trend of unity, of integration, and prosperous growth, basically. So we're going to hold a special program here at the